You are now entering the Take Up, a place to gather when the film is over. I'm your host, Joshua Ray, and I'm here with my co-host, that is the managing editor of takeup.com, Andrew Wyatt. Hi, Andrew.
Hello.
Every episode, we decide if one film gets to enter the Take Up's canon, and today we have a guest. That's Ryan Verrill of The Disconnected, and he has chosen Charlotte Wells' Aftersun for us to discuss. Then, after that, Andrew and I will have one more thing. All right, everyone has to be on their best behavior today because we have a guest who I revere. However, he's also kind of a neighbor. Hi, Ryan Verrill.
Hi. Thanks for having me on. I revere you as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Look at this. This is starting out great, guys. Ryan is of the, okay, so Ryan, here's how I know you. I know you as a little kind of black icon with a little bit of blue in it and a disc on it. That's The Disconnected, and like a excellent resource for physical media, news, releases. But you have a new venture coming up too, and I want to, at the top, get into that. Tell us about Antenna.
Yeah. So a couple years ago, as part of Disconnected, funny enough, I had an interview on my YouTube channel with the director Francis Galuppi, who directed Last Stop in Yuma County just a couple years ago, who literally right this very moment is in New Zealand shooting the next upcoming Evil Dead film. So he's a little busy. But
So,
in the in the middle of that interview, we were talking about his film when we got done, and then we just started geeking out about physical media. We were talking about things we loved and favorite audio commentaries and going down rabbit holes that are crazy. And he jokingly said, "Should we start a Blu-ray company?" And I went like, "Haha, yeah. Wait, are you serious? Like, should we talk about it?" And then literally about 3 months later, I showed up at his house, pitched him a full idea, and now Francis and I own a physical media company together that's turned into a full-scale distribution company, sending films to theaters, VOD, streaming, and their life will continue on physical media. And we are just incredibly thrilled to be doing this. We brought along a third partner. His name's Billy Ray Bruton, who's got 20 plus years of history in film festivals and theatrical booking and programming. And the three of us together are this like perfectly complementary trio of individuals that can champion titles to get out there. And what's funny is all three of us have kind of horror stories of companies just fucking you over, and like distribution companies that don't know how to handle films. And so we said, what if we just try to innovate? And our main idea is just don't be dicks. And w- we're talking to all these filmmakers, and we talk like that, and they're like, "This is great and all, but what's the catch? Like, when do you screw us over?" And we're like, "No, no, no! Like that's our shtick." And everybody is confused because they're like, "What do you mean? Like you're not going to make $400,000 this way? What do you mean?" We're like, "No, we shouldn't be making $400,000. That's not what a distribution company is. We should be celebrating your win because we're all lifting each other up." And I think a lot of people are still confused that we're not setting out to be assholes. But hey, here we are.
well, I don't want to talk shit about competition. Maybe you do, but as a film critic, and we used to program too for Cinema St. Louis locally.
Yes.
We worked a lot with these distributors, small and large, and I'm finding a lot of new distributors who seem to be a part of like private equity and have zero care for the actual film.
Yep.
I, I'm dealing with one trying to get a screener for something right now. This is maybe we're going too inside baseball. Josh, shut up. But I am just so excited that there are still film lovers out there who can figure this stuff out for so that we can see great films and different
Yeah.
films.
It is a tough process, undoubtedly, and the sad reality is there's still so many films that we would love to rescue that we can't, and that's really at the heart of it. I mean, physical media obviously is something that is so deeply entrenched in my soul that I truly feel like we are rescuing some of these films from being lost. But the reality is there are many of these films, and as many of you, being on this recording can attest to, you've seen quite a few films at film festivals that have literally never been available to anybody on any platform, any service, in theaters, on physical media. And that sucks because a lot of the time they're pretty damn good. They just don't get seen by that right person that can take them out there, and it's an awful process, but we're gonna do our best to change it for one film at a time.
Well, I think it's a great venture, and I'm super excited for the future of it, and am following along. We are fans, but you are a fan of Charlotte. How do you like that transition? That you are a fan of Charlotte Wells' Aftersun, the film that we are going to talk about today. This is 2022 Paul Mescal, Charlotte Wells' debut feature, and man, did I I think the thing that prevented me from crying this time is the Lexapro, so I'm grateful for that. Although, we did get pretty close here. Why'd you wanna torture me with Aftersun, Ryan?
Because I've tortured myself a few times with it, and every time, I am not on Lexapro because of what it causes to my body. But I will say, it has worked on me every single time, and I think every time I've cried harder than the previous watch.
Mm.
But as somebody who, as of literally 17 days ago, has an 11-year-old myself and a 9-year-old, and has
Oh.
been battling depression for the last 20 years, this movie was basically written with my name on the tag on the outside. So, yeah, I adore this movie and I hate myself, which is why I wanted to talk about
Andrew, do you have any similar experiences?
Same.
it.
Yeah, you're just right, you're just echoing my feelings about this. I can maybe go one up you. I think about this movie and I get, like, dust in the room. Like, I just have to
Yes.
think about the closing sequences in this film, and I start to tear up a little bit. Oh god.
Andrew, you had this in your top of the year for that year, for 22,
2022,
right?
yeah, it was, like, number 3 or 4, I think, yeah.
Okay, so you're also a major fan.
Huge fan, yeah.
Andrew, will you set up what Aftersun is?
Well, that's the question. What is it that we're watching there? Um, I mean, we've already touched on the emotionally devastating qualities of it, but, I think just as fascinating to me as a critic is what this object is and what it's meant to represent. So, Wells has talked about it being semi-autobiographical, not sort of necessarily one to one with her own experiences, but trying to reflect some emotional truth that she's experienced in her own life. So what we're seeing on screen is primarily about a week, it seems, during a, holiday in Turkey between a British father and daughter, Paul Mescal, which I think is the first film I remember sort of noticing him in. Um, Playing this dad, Callum, who's 31 when the film opens. Like, he has a birthday that's very close to his daughter's birthday, and his daughter Sophie has just turned 11, and they're sort of celebrating by having just a father-son, trip holiday in Turkey at this kind of, like, little resort and occasional excursions out to other places, but primarily based around this kind of, like, European. It seems like a resort designed for European holidayers. Um but we're not watching, strictly speaking, that event. What we're watching, it takes a bit to tumble to this fact, is adult Sophie remembering this trip. And what's interesting is that so much of, like, what the film shows us is primarily the vacation. We don't really get images or sequences of young Sophie and her father back elsewhere in London or in Scotland where they're from. The trip is the lens through which we're viewing their relationship and their dynamic. But what we're actually watching is adult Sophie remembering these events, partly through a kind of magical, recollection of those events, her trying to piece together the puzzle pieces of what her reminiscences, but also, I think very critically, through these mini DVD footage that that her father and her were taking during that. So we're getting sort of, uh, I think 35 millimeter sequences, sort of beautiful sun dazzled 35 millimeter sequences that represent sort of the immediate memories. But we're also getting this mini DVD footage, much grainier, represents sort of the objective artifacts that are left over. There aren't many of them. There's only a few snippets here and there that adult Sophie still has of that trip.
And there
And
are
I think
additional
and
layers, like the opening shot is
oh,
seems to be of the her adult Sophie watching the footage. Of course, you don't know that at this point, but
mhm,
you can see a very faint reflection in a TV screen. And so, you always put the thesis statement at the top, right? So to
oh.
me, that's kind of the
Oh,
big
and I was
of
locked. I
it.
don't know about you, Ryan, but I like the minute I saw that there was that shadow moving on what appears
Yeah.
to be an analog CRT television, and that, "Oh my god, I'm watching somebody watching this," I was locked in. Like, that was it for me.
Yeah, I mean, the one of the things that I think is most successful about this is the mixed medium approach to all of like the layers of storytelling and the way that in a way is like the viewer, if you're dialed into this movie subconsciously, you're getting different layers of, not to quote our great philosopher Shrek, but like the different layers of this onion that you're not even understanding that you're eating until you reflect on it or watch it a second time. Which, by the way, I know we've already stated that we've watched it and cried multiple times, but this is a movie that I feel like rewards rewatches on a whole other emotional level compared to some other films that have tried to do something similar, especially because you can watch this movie simply as a coming of age story, walk away going, "Oh, Sophie had a great life. This is amazing." You can watch this as a empathetic father and watch, "Oh man, I remember the good old days." And then you can watch this like it's at 11:30 at night in a bathrobe in like barely sitting there with like an open can of, I don't know, liverwurst or something next to you going, "Where did I fail and what is wrong with me as a person?" And even that third rewatch is, there's certain things that you're going to be rewarded with. The craft is just amazing. Yeah.
Um, I would propose that anyone who watches this and gets like a very surface level read of it, that it's just about a father and a daughter on vacation, is definitely on their cell phone watching it because and that's to Wells's credit. And this is
Yes,
her debut feature. Am I getting that wrong? That's her debut, right?
Yeah,
it
f
It
is.
feature, yeah.
that's incredible. I mean, for me, this isn't like one of my movies, but I also agree with you guys. And it's so every movement is kind of suffused with melancholy in a way that for me, it's a little stifling. However, I understand that that's part of the point. Like, I totally get that is actually a feature and not a bug of this. Um, Not to completely derail, but talking about getting things after watching it, she's such a kind of subtle filmmaker, although there are these kind of more ostentatious shots than others. I'm thinking specifically of the centerpiece shot of Sophie recording her father, and the camera is hooked up to the TV, and we see Mescal in a mirror, but we see it's kind of a hall of mirrors, and then we've got definitely a book that's like what is it, The Art of Meditation or something like that. So you're getting a lot of information on the screen, and I would consider that more ostentatious than some of the other shots they have that are more kind of fleeting memory moments. The one that really got to me this time, and not necessarily emotionally, but in a kind of abstract way, these three consecutive dissolves of the parasailers.
Mhm.
That's crazy. Like, that is a really next level stuff in there that I wasn't prepared for, and something that totally went over my head is just like, "Oh, scenery stuff." No, just like this kind of ephemerality of not only taking flight, but also watching that from a distance, because so much of this is, as we're talking about, watching. Um yeah, I don't know that I have a good point to any of that, but for me, it's just the more subtle things that Wells is doing here are more successful than some of the more kind of bigger things. And of course, I know we're gonna talk about the end of it, but we can reserve that for, I don't know, we'll probably talk
It's
about it for 20 minutes, right?
it's significant, I think, that when the first time we see those parasailers, Sophie asks, "Hey, can we do that?" And Callum says,
Right.
"No, you're not old enough."
Yeah.
But and that in another kind of movie, that would be the end of it. But Wells returns to that imagery over and over again, which again, because we're watching what I believe is a Sophie Memory Palace movie, really. That's really what we're watching. Um, she, of course, has never didn't stop thinking about it when her dad shut her down. She kept returning to that viewpoint, and what that retro both at the time for her as a kid, where she's thinking, "Damn, I would still love to do that. It looks so fun, looks so cool." But of course, we're not watching it as a kid. We're watching it as adult Sophie looking back on it, and for her, the way that those parasailers took on a deeper meaning or became a motif to that those memories of that vacation. Yeah, brilliant stuff.
Yeah, there's this stuff about Sophie and her relationship to her father, but there's also as you mentioned, Ryan, this coming of age narrative that I find so honest, where other films might obfuscate or kind of skirt
Yeah.
around about her burgeoning sexuality and kind of, watching these teenagers doing their things and her finding this other guy or young person at the resort on their what is it, like, dirt bike arcade machine. And
Sega!
yeah, and what I love is this film's honesty around that. It doesn't feel like there's kind of a false emotional movement or a false psychological movement in it. It feels so universally true to me.
I agree, and I think a lot of that can deal with, all of the themes that you could actually kinda argue are deeply entrenched in the multiple layers here of a cross between, like, voyeurism and perspective on how people are accepting things and how they feel about those different memories and how they've changed over the years. Because just plotting out, like, the timelines, technically, when Sophie is watching these back and remembering everything, she's around the age that her father passed, and it is affecting her in a way where she's looking back on that and seeing how she remembers things because not all of it was captured on film, obviously, or on mini DV or whatever it was. But she's remembering and seeing things in a way that she understands that she's revered and clouded and built up in a way that has built her entire life. And now that she's looking back on it, she's realizing it was her father's entire life. And so, yeah, there's a lot there.
It's a really good to your point, Josh, it's a really good film about the way that tweens and young teenagers watch other people. Watch
Exactly.
like, so much of this movie is Sophie watching, and a great performance from the young actress and a great attentiveness to how that exactly works when you're still figuring out who you are and what you want in life. Um, and of course, the sort of bittersweet God, there's so much going on in this movie. I don't know where to start. The bittersweet one of the many bittersweet aspects of it is that pivotal conversation that you talked about, Josh, that centerpiece sequence. I think the movie returns to it like 2 or 3 times, that sort of interrogation she does. Playful, but she doesn't interrogates her dad about his own sort of coming of age and growing up and what he wanted out of life, and it quickly turns dark for Callum. Um, but of course, now adult Sophie is thinking back on that through like that double layer that she was thinking back to a time when she was finding herself, figuring out who she was, but also it was a time when her dad was dealing with disappointment and disillusionment about where he was going in life and what he'd done with his life up to that point.
Yeah, if anything gets me in this, I'm not a father and probably never will be, to be honest. But at this point, um, I'm always affected by people who are stuck or at the inverse, people who achieve their dreams. I'm like, I don't cry a lot, but that shit really gets to me. Um, I should probably talk about this with my therapist and not you guys, but
No, well, that's what we're here for.
oh, right, okay.
That's what
Um,
cinema is for, damn it.
cinema as
Therapy
therapy.
therapy when you can't see
God,
a
you
therapist.
wanna talk about crying. I saw the clip of, Ebert at Sundance talking about cinema as the empathy machine,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and I just got fucked up. Not only because I, like, revered him and respected him so much and his death meant so much, but this is exactly what Wells is doing, is, like,
Yeah.
putting you into someone's shoes, quite literally. I've thought about Lynn Ramsey because, the Blank Check podcast was doing a Lynn Ramsey, series recently, but, not only do they have, your UK filmmaker, origins there, but Ramsey's so concerned with youth, and typically youth in like peril. I mean, I wouldn't say that's necessarily the case here, but thinking about the way she constructs her films on an emotional level as opposed to a narrative level, and Wells doing exactly that here. If there is a sort of narrative that you can follow, but that's not the point of this film.
Right.
The point of it is doing the same sort of investigation that Sophie is doing with the relationship with her father and what happened to her father. And if anything really haunts me about this is that sh- she'll probably never know. And
No.
the only thing that she ever has are these documents, but how much better it is that she has this kind of document, and how the documents sort of inform her memory and vice versa, are really key to the metatextual layers that are going on.
It is very true. It is something that, what's really interesting to even make it a little more meta, you can examine this in Charlotte Wells herself, because a few years earlier, she actually released a short film that has quite similar themes that you can see an individual dealing with the death of a father and how they react to that. And to watch her career be these footsteps of a short film that's starting to approach that subject, and then this one, which is taking it head on. And, I don't know. I just wanna ask, "You okay? You need a hug? Because I do."
What Ryan, what is your, so let's leave aside the ending. I do wanna get to the ending eventually because it
Yes.
for me, it's packed such a punch by design. But what is your sort of moment that really sticks with you? Maybe an unconventional moment that other people haven't talked about that you really treasure in this film?
Yeah, so one that, God, this last time hit me again, and what's weird is the last couple times I'd seen this, it didn't, but the first time I saw it, it did, so I don't know, it's kind of an odd bookend story here, I guess, but there is one scene where Callum is brushing his teeth in the bathroom, and the shot is framed where he's mostly off screen, and the, child actress is far to the left of the screen. It's not like a split diopter or anything truly special, but showing the like very obvious separation between their two experiences and the way that they are perceiving both of their situations and how they're both living two entirely different lives that seem to be just for a week essentially crossing through with each other, and how they react after that moment is one of the more emotional moments for me, because it's so mundane and routine in any other film, but in this you're just like, god, just, I mean, you could have had so much more time with your daughter, you got so much other things to live for and think about, and instead it's just, let's talk about her being too young for things and not being fully present for things, which in 2026, who's having a problem being present for their kids? I know I'm not. um it's an interesting sort of it's an interesting pivotal moment in just a series of pivotal moments that I just think back to the number of times I've helped my kids brush their teeth, or this week when I had to complain that I had to teach my kid seemingly for the 19th time how to wash his hair properly. Like, come on, all these routine things are such a part of our life, but I are affecting our kids in ways that, we know that we were affected that way. And in that moment, when you're dealing with those with your children, you're not really thinking about long-term ramifications.
I would say, like, that is another favorite scene of mine as well, and the part that I always remember that hit me so hard the first time and then just, ugh, I'm getting a little verklempt just thinking about it. The what's happening in the dialogue in that scene is that Sophie's trying to describe what I think an adult viewer would describe as feelings of alienation, of despair, of
Yeah.
disconnection, and depression really is what she's talking about. And her father is not, as you say, is separated. He's not looking right at her. He's listening to her from the other room. And you can just see in Callum's expression and the way he's trying to hold it together and keep a positive spin and keep her mind on the vacation that his heart is breaking, not
Yeah.
just because his daughter's expressing feelings that are difficult, but because he recognizes them. He knows these feelings himself. And it's breaking his heart silently to hear his daughter sort of give the embryonic version of what he knows is coming for her in the future, because it's that
Right.
genetic and parental legacy is coming for her, and it's killing him, but he doesn't really have a strategy for dealing with it other than let's go have a nice meal together.
Yeah.
The negotiation that Callum is constantly having with this independence versus protection
Mhm.
is, like I said, I'm not a father, but it's so palpable in this, and watching him hold her back from going to play pool with those guys again. And what happens is relatively, innocent. There are shades of like she's looking at this, older guy, this older teenager, and of course there's some little queasiness around her just being around them. But it it is it gets back to the idea of truth to me, and like a universal experience through these very specific people, that I think is, yeah, I don't know. Maybe the Alexa Pro isn't working. Guys, like, I think you're talking me more into this film too.
Well,
And
and
it's not
again,
that it isn't a complete emotional devastation every time. My mother died about 5 years ago now, and that was a complete, like, rewiring of my brain.
Mm.
So any resistance I have to, like, parent, child things right now, I'm like, "Well, please don't make me watch Aftersun." Although Ryan, to his credit, did give me a list, and I picked this one.
I'm glad you had to say that because I wasn't gonna
Right,
mention that part.
yeah, you definitely no, I'm giving you the right to call me out.
well, and there's I wanna circle back to something you said about, how much we can know how much did Sophie ever really know her father? And I think that is one
Right.
of this film's many theses, is that the idea of human beings, we're all just islands in some ways, and even the people that we're ostensibly supposed to be close to, our parents and our children, right? Like, in a perfect world, those are the people we would be closest to and the people we would know inside and out, and many people do have close relationships with their parents or their children, but one of the things Wells, I think, is underlying here is the fundamental futility of ever truly knowing, and the generational gap. It's not incidental that Sophie and Callum are only 20 years apart, right? There's that. It becomes like a plot point a couple times where there's some confusion about, oh, this is your daughter? Oh, okay. But it also leads to interesting things with like Callum trying to be more relatable to her and trying to make her confide in him in a way that like a young dad would.
Right.
Um, but there is that sense of mystery, right? I mean, let's get to the ending because to me, the subtext of this film that never is stated explicitly, but it almost might as well be was to me has always been this is the last time Sophie saw her father.
Yes.
That's the impression I walk away with. And the idea that this is what she has. She has the mini DVs and she has the memories and they intersect and overlap, but altogether, that's still an incomplete puzzle. She's never gonna know exactly who her father was, and the agony of that and the angst of that, I feel like is part of the emotional heart of the film, of the lack of knowing, of never being able to of reaching out in a crowd, in a strobing dance hall, reaching out for the identity of somebody who you thought you knew and not being able to grab them and just coming away with air. I feel like is that very sort of universal heart at the core of this film.
Especially when we find out through a couple, like, glimpses of memories and questions and conversations between the two of them that he, was not, like, a mainstay in her life. It was something where he was already just kinda passing glimpses on a dance floor for her. It's clear that the parents are not together, it's clear that he gets some activities with her, and this is likely his one big vacation of the year, and this was the last time that she's gonna have that moment before he literally and obviously a little bit metaphorically steps into the void forever.
It got me. I didn't remember watching it this time that he comes back. I thought that was the moment. I thought that he did actually stay in the ocean forever. I don't know. Am I misreading it? Am I misremembering it? But the the thing I love about this dance sequence that is, parsed throughout the film. You get glimpses of it, and you're getting kind of past Sophie, future Sophie. You're getting him, you're not getting him, you're getting her kind of present as it seems. You're getting people fall out of the background and just the two of them. That's what grief feels like to me.
Yeah.
Is it kind of rushes to me when I'm least expecting it. um, when I'm anticipating it, I feel differently about it. Sometimes I don't know how I'm going to feel about it, but no matter what, it's sort of ever present. And the kind of conjuring of a ghost is very easy to do. Even when you need to have this ecstatic release, which is what the dance is. Like she's kind of sort of sublimating all these feelings into this act of dance. And I'm not having a whole lot of points to my stuff today. I'm used to putting a fine point on thing because this movie is very kind of free flowing in
Yeah.
that way.
Another thing about that scene that I mean, obviously, Charlotte Wells will probably never explicitly say this, but one of the things that, especially my own personal grief, I've been feeling certain angst that I could see that our young protagonist here is potentially feeling, and then metaphorically that Charlotte is maybe delivering, is when those individuals keep dropping out from the scene of this dance floor. I've taken that slightly to mean the fading memories. I mean, it's now been multiple decades, and she's consistently losing more and more about her father, where the only thing that she has left is just this week. And it's only because it was so impactful for her and it's such a dire part of her life that it is such a lasting memory. This is a core memory, but she also knows eventually she's not even going to have him in those memories. It's just going to be like her making herself picture what she thinks the ideal of her father was for her at that time.
Nothing happens during that vacation that is, like, cataclysmic or in
Nope.
or dramatic in a melodrama sense, right? It's actually a pretty standard vacation. There's highs, there are lows, they have some fights, they reconcile, whatever. But the meaning of that vacation, if it indeed was the last time she saw her father, has swollen in her psyche, which leads
Yes.
to this probably endless for the last 20 years, she's been interrogating that vacation and trying to see, "What did I miss? What's a detail that I need to try to
Yep.
remember to treasure about that?" Because the importance of it from a timing perspective is, in hindsight, very key. And it's very obvious that is it going over these mini DVDs is not a new process. I get the impression she's not cracking them out after 20 years for the first time. This is
Right.
something she's done over and over to try to interrogate what what happened? What was her father thinking? What was her father's state of mind? Was there some clue I missed that might reveal something about something I could have done differently? But of course, there is nothing. The past is the past. She was 11. What was she expected to do differently?
Right.
She was trying to grow up herself. Um,
Well, and
I
that's part of the point of the film too, is that this was happening at a pivotal time in her growth.
Mhm.
Prepubescent, she's her burgeoning sexuality. I mean, all of that is very present, but it's also tangled up in her relationship and her father, and not necessarily in a electra complex sense, but in the way that he sort of policed or didn't police her. That scene about her protecting herself and holding the wrists and pulling the wrist
Yeah, so great.
away is so great, not only because it's great, like, character work, in showing the relationship and him, like, trying to exert the very little power he probably has in the relationship left, but his honest kind of concern for her as a woman.
Right. And it's a film that's very attentive to I don't know if you would agree with this or not, Ryan, as a dad, but, like, kids can sometimes surprise you with how observant they are.
Oh yeah.
I love the scene where she drops the scuba mask by accident, and he's kind of, like, just being quiet while he's getting out of the scuba gear, and she she's watching him and watching his body language and his attitude, and she's the one who comes to him and says, "I'm sorry. I know it was expensive," because and that reveals so much about their relationship and how smart Sophie is, even at 11, to those kind of psychological cues that she knows that her dad doesn't have a lot of money, and he knows that he's a little angry about her being careless, so she apologizes, and again, the film is just stacked with that kind of, like, tiny, subtle grace notes in performance, in writing. I do wanna specifically call out Frankie Corio, who's the young actress who plays Sophie. I don't think it was supposedly there was, like, a huge casting. It was, like, 800 girls were interviewed, and she was on sort of she wasn't a non-actor, but she wasn't really, like, hadn't really done much of anything when
Right.
they cast her, but she's a real discovery in this. She's so authentic and so good.
And I
Yeah,
think
no,
this was her
100.
first performance at all in anything as well.
Wow, that's crazy.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to break down Mescal, who's so hot right now,
Mhm.
and hot.
And permanently.
Right, yeah. We can't avoid that this is another hot, sad dad performance from him. So it's kinda like we've been running through the best pictures. This is our way of talking about Hamnet, but not talking about Hamnet,
Smart.
because be yes, thank you. I'm glad you agree. Um, uh, I I think I first took notice in The Lost Daughter. Remember, he's the one who's flirting with, Dakota Johnson and Olivia
Oh,
Colman.
that's right, he is.
Yeah, he's this, like, interloper in the
Was that
series
before
of
this? That was
interlopers.
the year before,
It was
right?
the year before.
Mm.
I'm like, "Who the fuck is that?" Um, and then of course, the next thing was this, and he got a Best Actor nomination, which was kind of a not really a surprise. He was in a lot of talks for this, for that nomination, but it was still cool because this is a small film, in, technical ambition, or I mean, in as far as storytelling ambition, um, but also A24 didn't really push it that hard. So it was a
No.
very organic nomination. And I'm just like looking at his, relatively small filmography, and
Normal People, the British series, was, like, his breakout, right, though,
Yes.
before Lost Daughter, that was how he came to fame, right?
I would
I
love
remem
to see this guy, like, in a rom-com or something, because All of Us Strangers, History of Sound, which is like a mid they're both mid movies to me, but,
I liked History of Sound a lot, by the way.
you did?
I
Wait, whoa.
loved it.
I think my memory of it isn't as strong even though it came out relatively recently. I think he's so good in that movie. You know what made that
Yeah.
movie for me, I know we're not talking about it, is the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
It's
we will
very
see.
good.
Very good, yeah. So that is All of Us Strangers, I hate that. I hate that movie. I'm
Wow.
sorry. Yeah, I can't
I
stand it.
I'd still marvel that you hate that. Like, it feels like a movie that should have hit for you, and it just you
I
absolutely
agree.
hated it.
It felt very manipulative to
Mm.
me, and so I had my hackles up. Maybe someday
You don't like being jerked around. I know
I
that
like
about you.
being jerked around. I like being shown something. I don't like
Mhm.
being told anything. Ain't nobody can tell me anything. Anyway, so he's not the protagonist of this, but it is so much about him. But like you said, Andrew, it's the impossibility of of building really any holistic picture of any person ever, and
Mm.
that is a subject I absolutely love.
I also to circle back to, I think, what we something we mentioned early on is I think this is also just a really smart movie about the videographic image and how
Yes.
key it is to how we in our present era process memory and emotion and feeling. I know, Josh, you aren't the biggest fan as I am of Skinamarink or I Saw the TV Glow, but I feel like as different as this is from those in all other respects in terms of genre and tone and content, I do feel like they're part of a continuing and emerging, really successful, I feel, very successful grappling with how the relationship between the videographic image, and in particular, kind of the post-90s digital videographic image and how it relates to our to memory and recollection and how we puzzle together identity and of both ourselves and the people around us. And I just think it's a like it isn't even a major thesis of the film, but the centrality of that um, mini DV camera and the role it plays in adult Sophie's recollections, I think, is just makes it a part of that current, and I think a very smart part of that current.
I think it is sort of central to what's going on in the film, though, because
Mhm,
the act of recording something changes your memory.
mhm,
And then furthermore, the act of viewing that recording alters your memory too. Um,
absolutely.
so much of this is her trying to piece through is
It
is
all comes back to Lost
true.
Highway, right? I'd like to remember. No, I'm not kidding.
No, I know.
I can't emphasize how important that line has been for me in terms of a critic. I like to remember the things the way they happen, how I
Mm,
remember them, not
I yeah,
necessarily the way they happened.
Right.
yeah, you're right. And you know, the digital in the film, we just went really long on that on Zodiac. and
Yeah,
and you brought it up last week too with the video image in Prince of Darkness and
yeah.
the kind of yeah, all of this texture play is one reason that seeing films in the highest possible quality that you can is important.
Nice segue.
It's not even a segue. I mean, Ryan, last week I went on about this um, great little YouTube video I found called "The Biggest Mistake Hollywood Ever Made." Someone by
I already know
Slight.
which one you're talking about. Yes.
Oh, okay. Is that okay? Back me up.
Well, to even back that up a little further, yes, I agree with the entire video. I think things like the forced lighting choices by streaming executives right now is one of the worst things to happen in visual cinematography over the last 15 years. That could be a whole other 5-hour episode. But
Fine, let's
to
do it.
to bridge the gap real quick, I mean, metatextually, in a couple ways, you could look at Aftersun being sort of one of the last like fading memories of what media literacy is and how people are looking at these and how they affect the way that they reflect back on things. And now, you know, with the focus on deep faking and AI and all these other things that, I mean, from now on, not only can you not trust your memories fully, you literally can't trust a video that you're seeing fully when you used to kind of be able to do that because it was not possible to make
And
them
the
look fake.
and the, and not just the deepfake AI, just the ephemerality of streaming, like, the fact that things can be, like, put on
Yep,
services and then yanked off services,
yep.
like, HBO snaps their fingers and, like, Westworld disappears, and it's like, Wait,
Or
what?"
all of Looney Tunes, which
Yeah,
we all know.
like, that's infuriating to me, the way that, like, there's no permanence. Even, streaming should be an easy platform for permanence, but it's like the
Right.
worst people in the world have decided that, "Nah, it doesn't matter. We'll just cycle shit in and out. We'll pull things when it's not in our interest." What can the overhead possibly be to keeping Looney Tunes, available to everybody all the time? It can't be
Well,
that high, but
who
somebody
cares when they're
decided.
writing off entire films for a
Yeah.
tax write-off? Come on.
Uh, all right, we're gonna work ahead of steam here to be angry about this.
Yeah, I'm going from sad to mad all over again. But nothing new there either. Um, but
Sad to mad.
no, I mean the importance here is this is a film of textures and
Yes.
Mhm.
of filmic textures, media textures, and that's something that became really important to me once I made the jump to Blu-ray when I was younger, and figuring out that there is something so um, interesting about grain textures or lack of grain or
Mm,
there's so much visual language in the source material that can be lost by deduping and by not caring for its original quality.
yeah,
I've seen films again in better quality or in 35 millimeter prints that I felt I understood better just
same.
because that those textures were there. And you get so far away from, not even necessarily the intention of the filmmaker, but the actual thing itself. Whatever that means when you start deduping and you come to these four supposed 4K streaming services in that video.
Right.
Go back and
This is why Aftersun is a great title, because what is an aftersun? What is light projected back through time, through memory, through the literal projection? What is
bro,
that but aftersun? It's
that
stored
is so
sunlight.
that's so fucking beautiful.
And there's a
Yeah.
Polaroid. I mean, that's what I keep coming. I mean, like that is the one sort of
Yeah.
older analog technology that pops up.
Yep.
That Polaroid, the way that it lingers on it. Oh, so good.
So that's my thing. I don't know. I love that idea. I don't necessarily love the execution of that shot. I feel like it calls attention to itself in a way other things in this film don't. I don't. And there are a couple other shots that's my sole reservations about this thing is there are very like I might not be able to do another one. The debut filmmaker things. But I think this film is a marvel for everything that we've been talking about. Yeah.
I don't know what she
Um,
has in the. I know she's done like some commercials,
Yes.
but I don't
yeah,
know what
cash
her
that check.
next like.
Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind, but I don't know what her next feature is. I haven't heard anything about it yet, so
Well, we're
eagerly
definitely
wait. I will be sat. Let's put it that way.
Yes, we are all pre-sold for that. However, Andrew, the time has come for us to decide if Aftersun by Charlotte Wells gets to stay forever or if it must sashay away. I voted first last time. It's your turn to vote. Go.
I'm voting it in.
Okay, I'm
I
not
love this.
voting
I
it
love
in.
this.
I'm going to save a vote.
All right, I'm
Um,
using my first vote of 2026 to bring this in because I adore it. That's all I'm gonna say.
yeah. I like it more right now because you guys like it. Like, you guys have
But
well,
that's
we
part of
do this sometimes.
that's what this new like, that's what this
Yeah,
format that we've adopted since last fall is all about. It's about like, I really enjoy bringing on our guests. I mean, it's fun when it's just you and me as well, and we're enthusing about it, but I really like bringing on guests like Ryan to, like, pump us up about a film that makes them excited, and I
Yeah.
l there's something particularly I think it's true of any art, not just film, but having somebody talk enthusiastically about something and sell you on it and why it's great, I feel like is always a really enjoyable process and enjoyable conversation.
it is the
Agreed.
great
So thank you
empathy.
very much, Ryan, for hyping it up even more than I would have already hyped it up.
It's one of the like again, we were just talking about it being her first film. Almost any other filmmaker would have dreamed for this to be their first film. And just on that fact alone, this movie's a legendary experience already.
Charlotte Wells, you're in there. You're our first woman director, quote unquote, finally in our selection, in our canonical selection.
Speaking of which, this is a bit we do where I, infamously terrible memory person, tries to remember our list. Here we go. Far From Heaven, No Country for Old Men, Taxi Driver, Rushmore, The Graduate, One Battle After Another, The Secret Agent, Misericordia, Suspiria, Resurrection, Aftersun. Did I get it? Is that 13? Because we were at 12 before this.
No,
I got it.
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Woo! I did not get it in order, but that's fine, right?
That's a
As long as
damn good list.
isn't it a good list? All right. However, Andrew, I'm gonna pose a challenge to you.
Mm.
The next time you and I pick movies, we're gonna pick like pre 1950 movies because we got to go back. We got to go back. We got to go back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Ah,
Let's make this an older. Let's get some classic. Let's get some pre-code in there. Let's get some
yeah, for
silence. Let's
sure.
get them all.
Silence. Okay.
Yeah.
Next time we're choosing silent films. You
Ooh.
and I.
Okay.
We
I
both
love it.
choose
I
one.
love it.
All right. Okay, Ryan. Oh my God, thank you so much. Even though it made me feel bad, I also feel good about feeling bad now. But thank you so much for joining us, and you just doing really great work. Run us down where people can find you.
Oh Jesus, this is a long list. So sorry in advance.
Fire away.
Everywhere on social media under the name The Disc Connected, and that's pretty much every social media. You can check out Antenna Releasing at antennareleasing.com or on any of the social medias. We're either at Antenna Releasing or Antenna for Films, depending on the character count requirements. I also own a production company that works on supplemental features, and we publish a magazine every single month. You can check that out at someone'sfavoriteproductions.com. I just put on my last annual award show for physical media. It's called the Shelf Shock Rewind Awards. You can check out all 4 of those live on my YouTube channel. They all live there forever. That's at Shelf Shock Rewind Awards on social media everywhere. And these are pretty big award shows. We have, last year Sean Baker was involved at the award show. We had Francis Gallupi, Joe Lynch did a thing for us this year. They're pretty big. So check them out. Love it.
That is incredible stuff. I'm going to ask you live. We're not live, but on this podcast that we at some point do a bonus episode to talk about your work and physical media because
Please.
I love that stuff. So here's a little I'm gonna drop some Josh lore. I'm moving to France and my husband is French. It's time to go. Yes, you guys can come with me. That's what
Thank
everyone's
goodness.
asking.
I'm so
Um,
glad you're offering to be my anchor baby.
yes, absolutely. And I am paring down my collection, and every single time it feels like a cut on my body. It is a death of a thousand cuts, and I hate it. And yes, this entire time I have been yeah, attentive to what you're saying, but also looking at all of your DVDs.
I am in the middle of right now listing, this is an embarrassing number to say, but about 2,500 releases for sale. And what I'm trying to tell myself is you're running a company now that is about to put physical media into the world. If I have to cut some of my own babies to make babies for everybody else, it's a good thing. And it's one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life.
Oh my god, like, how are we doing it? Every time I have someone who's coming, like, as we speak, and I have their stack right there, and I'm like, "I can't believe this person did this."
Are we recording our bonus episode already? I love this. Yes.
So, yeah, we can't help but do it. We can't help but do it. Alright, well, thank you so much once more for
Thank
bringing
you.
the film and bringing everything here, and we hope to, have you on soon again.
Please, I'll be here.
Thank you so much,
Alright.
Ryan.
All right, every episode we wrap up with one more thing. That's one more thing we've been enjoying since Aftersun. Before Aftersun, After the Sun, the Brett Ratner film. No, I
Ooh,
don't.
ooh.
Now I'm just saying bad things. Yeah, you both give me looks. All right, Andrew. I went first last time. It's your turn. What's your one more thing?
My one more thing is me catching up on 2025 movies that I missed, which included Park Chan-wook's No Other Choice, which
Hmm.
I was looking forward to a lot. I can't believe I waited this long to see it, and I absolutely loved it. So, does Park Chan-wook need a further validation introduction from me at this point? Probably not. But we were just talking about a 2022 film, and Decision to Leave was, I think, my number 2 film of 2022. So I've also been thinking about that quite a bit. And this one's also, yeah, another banger from Park Chan-wook. Who's surprised? Um,
Yeah, like I love this very kind of everyman
mhm,
era he's in and breaking down the family or marriages. I like
mhm.
this focus and putting them in extremis. Like this is my Park Chan-wook era. Y'all can keep your old boys.
Well,
Yeah, I love
I
this movie.
think
I
so
love
for
you.
those who don't know, like, the plot of this movie is just sort of a beautiful elevator pitch. So, what if you were laid off from your job of 20 plus years and you'd realize that the only way, because you're so specialized in your industry and there's not many positions available in your country in that industry, your only solution is to go out and find the other top candidates for the very, very few number of jobs available and murder them. And that's basically the pitch of the film. And what I love about this film as a sort of blackly comic neo-noir, done in that Park style that's just so delicious and vivid and visceral, is the banality of the anti-hero's quest. Like, he doesn't want to make $1 million. He doesn't want to completely reinvent himself. If anything, he wants to stay exactly where he was or is. He wants to hang on to this very sort of comfortable but sort of typical bougie existence with his wife and kid, he doesn't want anything disturbed. And let me tell you, I relate a little bit to that. I don't want anything to change. I'm not a fan of change. But the idea of building a uber violent, funny uh thriller around that idea about a guy who is willing to do anything to preserve what little he has, including taking the most ridiculous path to doing it, I think is just sort of tantalizing and fascinating. And of course, there are all kinds of weird digressions and things curling you off in unexpected directions, as they always do in his films. And I just loved it. I loved it to beginning to end. Very entertaining, but also very dark, and it ends on such a weird, dreary,
Happy ending.
happy, but also kind of feeling like I did terrible things just to secure my place in hell kind of ending.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, he's got no other choice.
He's
No
got
other
no other
choice. No
choice.
other choice. No
Did you
other
did
choice.
so you like this film
Yeah,
as
of
well?
course. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This is our shit. This is our
Yeah.
kind of like this
I
is a
mean,
Venn diagram. The
it
middle.
doesn't have the absolute, like, perversion of Decision to Leave, the surveil me like one of your
Yeah.
French girls perversity of
The
Decision to Leave, but it does have some, like,
great.
weird sexual stuff in it and some weird stuff about marriage and relationships and the lies we tell each other that I really like, so
Yeah, this one's definitely like capitalism bad, whereas no other choices like um, you know, uh I don't know, I want to kill myself or type shit. Yeah, no, I second that endorsement
yeah.
heartily and hope maybe we can talk about it soon.
Mm.
Hmm,
Yeah, Park probably needs to be in there in the vault.
I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
Hmm. All right. Well, that is what is it available to rent digitally? Is that how you got it? Or did you go see it?
I actually watched, speaking of physical media, seems like Neon is the last company that's putting out a big meaty book of Blu-rays
Oh,
during
yeah.
award season every year. So I watched it from my Neon set that I'm still working through, from
What
2025.
what you
So
got left in that? You been to Surat yet?
no, I haven't been to Surat and haven't really. The real surprising one that I haven't had time for yet is
It was just an accident?
it was just an accident.
Ugh,
I'm really excited about that one. Yeah.
bruh. Get on that.
Yeah, I
Get on
know.
that immediately. It's very you too, I
Oh
think.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's I knew from looking at it that it was my jam. So
But you can, looks like you can rent it digitally now, so
okay,
no other
awesome.
choice.
Yeah.
Probably it was just an accident too. All right, and where can people find you?
You can find me at thetakeup.com.
Very good.
Also on Letterbox, Blue Sky, a few other places.
All right, my one more thing. Speaking of, boutique DVD labels
Yeah, I
and
know you love a boutique DVD label, Josh.
um, recently the Deaf Crocodile brand, which specializes in Eastern European and
Mhm.
Soviet films, especially older films.
They have all those great Soviet fantasy films, right?
Yes, they do. They definitely do. And they do a lot of Soviet animation. And specifically, they have a new Soviet animation volume 3, and that is the work of Yuri Norstein. Are you familiar with him?
No, no.
He is regarded as being among the greatest animation artists. Not only does this set include a lot of his key works, and I think most of his work, but it includes what is regarded as one of the great animated films of all time, the 11-minute miracle called Hedgehog in the Fog. So this is his as I'm going through this single Blu-ray that contains 9 shorts. Um, it's wild to me that he works in so many different modes and so many different kinds of storytelling, and yet they're all so consistently great and so consistently him, that it's just another argument for auteurism. But it's a beautiful set. There's great supplemental feature about him working later in his life, that's feature length, but the runtime of the entire 9 short films is like 104 or 100 minutes. So it's a breezy, easy watch, even though the very first one is about the Russian Revolution. And but it's still just a kaleidoscopic and beautiful work. And you can get it on Blu-ray.
What is the collection actually called?
It's Soviet Animation Volume 3. There's a couple other volumes that I don't have, but I'm interested in. You can stream these on Eternal Family, the service that I recommended maybe about a month ago. You can stream several films from Deaf Crocodile. I don't know that they have the Yuri Norstein things up there yet. It's readily available online, but this is a pristine new restoration, and that is of the utmost importance with this because he works with a lot of stop motion. It looks like paper cutting, and it's in very deep layers too. So
Mhm.
the amount of detail that you're going to get from, yes, your physical media is very
I'm
important.
looking at screen caps of this film, the hedgehog film
Hedgehog
you're
and the
talking about.
Frog.
Yeah, yeah, and it looks amazing. The actual title of the collection is Treasures of Soviet Animation, from the Crocodile, and this particular one is subtitled The Short Films of Yuri Norstein.
Yeah, and I think I got it for like $21 or something.
Yeah, it
So
doesn't look expensive. Yeah,
just grab it. Just grab it.
love it.
But you can find me at OK Josh Ray on Instagram, Letterboxd, and yeah, at the Take Up STL. All right, so we're gonna wrap up our best picture talk on the next episode. That's you and me and Marty Supreme. Did you watch it yet?
That's on the agenda for this week. I'm excited. I'm
It's
ready to
such an
watch.
it's such an intense and relentlessly entertaining film. However, its
A
intensity
Safdie film that's relentlessly intense? What? No, that can't be right.
it is it does reveal. Never mind. I'm not gonna say that. Stop trying to spoil the next episode.
All right,
All
we'll see.
right, Marty Supreme. It's as of right now, there are some theatrical screenings, not local in St. Louis. Maybe it'll come back again. I don't know. It was a very successful film for its scale. But you can rent it on any, streaming service. And there's an A24 4K coming out soon too. So I don't think before the episode, but that'll be next week. Until then, thank you to Ethan Tarantella for producing, editing, and Kayla McCullough for social media. Got theme music by AMP. But until next week, everybody wants to rule the world.